We got everybody who we really are.
Step out on the field and hear the crowd roar.
We're about getting fight.
All day today, leave no doubt.
We gonna show them who the real Lions are.
I'll be there for love. All I'm dreaming of, 'cause it's in my blood.
Top of the world.
And it's for the love.
Touchdown. Oh, baby, that is beautiful. Oh, my word. Game over. It's over, baby.
I'm only in this for the
We got some awful weather up and down the East Coast. However, it is sunshiny and people are happy. In South Florida, Tyreek Hill and the Dolphins are 2-0. They are back at home. First home game this year for them. Jalen Waddle inactive, by the way. We'll get to that list coming up in a second. But it's the Dolphins. It's the 0-2 Denver Broncos. It is you here with us, and we are thrilled to say happy week 3. Thanks for watching here, NFL Game Day Preview. My name is Andrew Siciliano. That down there is Cynthia Freeland. This right here with the Andrew Whitworth look.
Whit stole it from me. I've told you that.
is Steve White.
Whit sampled the hoodie from me.
I like it regardless. By the way, Mrs. Whitworth.
Yes.
Melissa Whitworth.
Melissa,
thinks that
we
she
love Melissa.
Came up with this look.
Well, that's all props to her. I stole it from her then.
Okay. Marcus Grant joins us with fantasy tips and fashion tips coming up shortly as well. Let's get to the inactives here because there's a long list today, speaking of fantasy, of notable fantasy names and, let's say, other names as well. Look at the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Jones and Christian Watson. Amon-Ra St. Brown is up. That is good. Same for Curtis Samuel. I mentioned Jalen Waddle. DeAndre Hopkins is a go. Laramie Tunsil is a no. Joey Bosa is a yes, but Austin Eckler is not active. Ian Rappaport is active today. Good to see him. Hello, Ian. Happy game day. Our NFL Network insider. Aaron Jones, Christian Watson. Those are the big names, but it is a long list today here for Matt LaFleur.
Yeah, those are the big names, but those are not the only names. And there are some really, really good players. I'm talking Pro Bowl, all-pro type players for the Green Bay Packers who are not playing. You mentioned the two. Aaron Jones still dealing with that hamstring injury. I know they originally thought it was minor. They want to make sure when he's out on the field, he is 100%. He did not get there today. Tried to go, could not do it. And then Christian Watson, the standout receiver who has not yet played this season because of hamstring injuries. They want to make sure he is good to go and doesn't continue to deal with this. So he is officially out. That is not all. David Bakhtiari, their star left tackle, really one of the best left tackles in football, still dealing with a knee injury. It's not turf-related, but it is knee-related. He also will not play. And then Jair Alexander, the Pro Bowl corner, really one of the best and also highest-paid corners in the NFL, had a back injury that limited him in practice on Friday, also was not able to go. So that is a lot. And for the Green Bay Packers, this is a significant, significant challenge.
Yeah, just to recap, left tackle, left guard, number 1 running back, number 1 wide receiver, number 1 corner. And by the way, without that number 1 running back, Aaron Jones, the Packers have lost their last 4 games. Speaking of number 1 running backs, we know Nick Chubb is out for the season. Kareem Hunt is wearing a Nick Chubb jersey today, walking into the tunnel at First Energy Stadium. You had some good news yesterday on Nick Chubb. Not he'll be back in January news, but good news regardless.
Right. Nick Chubb is out for the season no matter what, which I think we've known. And if you watch that injury, Andrew, immediately the first thing that popped into everyone's head was, did he just dislocate his knee like he did in college? And that's when I started calling around and talking to sources about the results of his MRI. This is what I expected, that it was a dislocated knee and all of his ligaments were torn. That is not the case. My understanding, Nick Chubb does have a torn MCL. He is going to have surgery this week on the torn MCL. It generally is about 6 to 9 months of recovery. However, the ACL is not torn. There is some damage to the ACL, so it is conceivable that when they get in there and start doing the surgery, they do decide to completely repair and reconstruct that ACL, but it is not a given. The kneecap did not dislocate, and the other ligaments are okay. So for Nick Chubb, this is not a career-threatening injury. It's a serious injury, but it is not a career-ending injury, which is very good news.
The guy who fancies himself as a low-key Batman, much like Gerald McCoy, by the way, on the other stage, right down the hallway, has somewhat of a Superman or a superhero knee, evidently, to survive what was just an ugly, ugly scene Monday night in Pittsburgh. Ian Rappaport, thank you, sir. Our NFL Network insider with the latest there on Nick Chubb. Speaking of ugly, ugly weather today at MetLife Stadium. Also an ugly record. Let's just do that transition for Zach Wilson against the Patriots. He is 0-4 lifetime against the Patriots. The list of quarterbacks who have started their career 0-5, not exactly prestigious, including David Klingler, J.P. Lossman. Well, Carson Palmer is also on that list. But as Mike Garafolo dodges raindrops, he tells us, hi there, Mike, that once again they are pounding the table here and supporting Zach Wilson, because I guess right now there is no other option but to support Zach Wilson.
Right, and that's why they're not looking outside right now, because they want to make sure that they give Zach Wilson the best chance that they possibly can right now, with the most confidence in him that they could possibly show. And they're talking about last week, that game against the Cowboys. He actually did some good things in that game. I talked to Tim Boyle, the backup quarterback. He said his communication was outstanding, even when the game was out of hand. He and Garrett Wilson talking about, well, if we see this look from the cornerback, I'm going to throw it this way. And then he goes out in the very next play, he executes on that. Now, it was a back shoulder throw, right? It's a pretty basic thing, but Boyle loved the communication there and the fact that they then brought that to the field and the adjustments in game. So those are the positives that they're looking at right now. Boyle calling that big-time ball. That's a quote that he used. And he's spent some time behind Aaron Rodgers in his career, so he knows what big-time ball looks like. But look, you can't let the game get out of hand. You got to play good defense. You got to run the ball. Dalvin Cook, I talked to him the other day. He said he's starting to feel more like himself, and the Jets were going to bring him along slowly, but no time like the present to really get that running game and the defense going. Play from ahead. That's really the best shot that they have with Zach Wilson.
Yeah, the stakes in this game, pretty hard to overstate, really, for both of these teams, the stakes in this game.
Yeah.
It is a defensive game. Has to be.
Yeah, it's a defensive game. And Cynthia, look, we know Bill Belichick is going to come after Zach Wilson, right? Do everything he can to confuse him. And I want to hit the Zach Wilson part of it, because Mac Jones, I think he's played okay. But if Wilson can't show that he can play in this league, the New York Jets might have some decisions to make down the line. We're talking about this commitment to him and everything, but if he starts struggling again, especially today, they're 0-3, people are going to wonder, is it time to maybe move on? I don't know who they would move on to. And Mike, as you said, and I'd like to bring you back in here, the run game, Breece Hall said after last week's game against Dallas, I only touched it 4 times. That's part of the issue. We're looking at Breeze, we're looking at weather. Would that also possibly get Nathaniel Hackett to stick more to the run, knowing the elements could be in play?
There's no question, and this is a Patriots offense that has had a couple of slow starts to start the season. They play better later in games, but they have started slowly. So the Jets really need to jump out and, like I said, play from ahead, because that's going to be the blueprint. It's going to be kind of like week 1, the way that defense and the running game kept them in the game. Then you get a special teams touchdown. Nobody's expecting that Zach Wilson is going to be Aaron Rodgers 2.0. This offense is going to have to change, so they have to play to that strength. And again, with that weather that you're talking about, it's intermittent. Just a couple of minutes ago, I was on game day morning. I had an umbrella here. I just shed it. When these tropical storms break down, it's like rain, not rain, rain, not rain. And these wind gusts have started to pop up as well. So, yeah, it's going to be an ugly weather day. And just the blueprint for the game, I think, for both teams is to run the football.
Run the football, but also leverage their young corners. Obviously, we know about Sauce Gardner and how great he is. But if you look at the other side, we've seen a guy in Christian Gonzalez, who the Patriots, like, how he fell to 17 to them is like some sort of, I don't know what kind of Bill Belichick doing like a little spell somewhere to be able to get him. But he's been wonderful in these first few games. I mean, he even had they blitzed him a couple of times. He had a sack against Jalen Hurts. So when you talk about defending the run and using a lot of different false leverages and all the things that can confuse any quarterback, not just either of these two who are younger quarterbacks, that's what Bill Belichick does masterfully. So I'm curious to see how these young guys play in this weird intermittent weather. And the defense is really fair because, like we talked about, this is, to me, a very defensive battle, and the weather would reinforce that.
Look, run the ball. They handle. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, just real quick. I do want to say something to Christian Gonzalez, because that night I was asking on the teams that passed on him and some other teams as well. They said, he doesn't play with enough force. And we are seeing that he's playing with plenty. The Patriots were plenty good with it, and so far he has shown that. For
Yeah, there's a big whoops.
Whoops. He looked good last week, High Point. That football
So
coming
far.
down with an interception in primetime as the Patriots today look to make it 15 consecutive over the Jets. Mike Garafolo dodging raindrops and giving us the tropical weather, the tropical storm update, rather, live in East Rutherford. That is live in Green Bay. Derek Carr warming up today for the New Orleans Saints as they are on the road, and they are 2-0, and they haven't really done much offensively. But they're at Lambeau today facing a team that is all kinds of banged up, all kinds of injured, as we say happy game day live in Green Bay to Stacey Dales. Hi there, Stacey. What's the story?
Hey, good morning, you guys. Yeah, the injuries, a rash of injuries for the Green Bay Packers is the story as Jordan Love goes about his home opener as the franchise quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. He'll be without 4 starters, prominent starters, in terms of Christian Watson at the receiver position, the running back Aaron Jones, who I watched both warm up and try to test out their hamstring issues. They just couldn't go. And from the offensive line, David Bakhtiari, the blindside protector, and certainly right beside him, Elton Jenkins at that left guard spot. So you'll see Rasheed Walker step into that tackle spot for Bakhtiari. And we know Bakhtiari's had the knee issues, but now there's just some growing concern around the left tackle. One of the best in the game, but he's just been so limited because of that massive knee injury a couple of years ago. Compromising because you're facing a Saints defense that is really good. You guys know this. When you have a quarterback that has only thrown a touchdown in Derek Carr this season, as you guys just alluded to, Andrew, and they are still winning games. They are 2-0, and they are holding their opponents, intact defensively in terms of keeping them, in control in the red zone, and 10 straight games with 20 points or fewer, which is a franchise record. So all 3 levels have been outstanding for them. I'm really anxious, though, to see the running back, Tony Jones, get a start for a guy right off the practice squad, getting an opportunity after a couple touchdowns last week to get the start here today. And then you're also going to see Kendre Miller, the rookie out of TCU, the 3rd rounder, will make his debut because he's been dealing with a hamstring issue of his own.
Kendre Miller, first game, and the last game for Alvin Kamara here being suspended. He is eligible to come back next week for New Orleans. Stacey mentioned that defense. That defense here, Steve, has been I think the most under the radar, low key, at times dominant defense in the NFL.
For 5 or 6 years, Andrew. I mean, they've ranked usually in the top 7 in almost every major statistical category every year, and that's the same right now. They're top 5 in every major category right now. Stacey just talked about 10 straight games holding offenses to 20 points or fewer. And let's look at the offensive line issue for the Packers. That left side, they've got to try to block Carl Granderson. He just signed that extension, the defensive end for the Saints. He signed a big extension because he's turned into a stud. A perfect bookend, Cynthia, for Cam Jordan. Plus, they've got some stud interior defenders, the rookie Breezy in there. It could be tough sledding for them trying to run the ball. And Jordan Love, who we're seeing right there, he is going to be put on the spot.
At some point, the coach can't do everything, right? If you go back and watch those first few games, especially when Aaron Jones was playing, you saw a lot of great motions and shifts and a lot of things that the coach sort of helps manufacture so you don't have to read the defense as easy. And you know who's a really hard defense to read? Even without Marcus May, with a great safety,
right.
They are missing, the Saints are missing him, but they overload, they change the sides, the protections are different. They do a lot of, again, we talk about false leverages, which just means sometimes it looks like zone when it's really man or vice versa. You know who does that really well? The Saints. And it's going to be really difficult for Jordan Love, who just doesn't have that kind of recognition of defense. He can't, right? He just doesn't have that kind of experience, and now he's without 1, 2, 3 of his best things. So that's just a difficult task.
Gave you the stat before that the Packers have lost their last 4 when they don't have Aaron Jones. And that Saints defense here, again, 10 straight, 20 or fewer points for the opposition. The best number in the last decade, Patriots did it in 11 games. So we're talking about like an historic run here, holding teams under 20 for the Saints. Can the Broncos get it rolling today in Miami? Coming up, we're heading live to South Florida. Broncos, Dolphins. By the way, Cynthia's out of here. Back to Game Day morning on NFL Network. Bye, Cynthia. Game Center. Check it out as well once we get done. NFL Game Day preview, everybody. You're looking at Sam Howell. There's only one quarterback in the NFL with 2 fourth-quarter comebacks. Anybody know who it is? It's that guy.
Wow.
Right there.
That's a tease.
Steve White, did you know that? You're watching NFL Game Day preview, friends, on the NFL channel. Steve White, you heard his voice. My name is Andrew Siciliano. Sherry Burris is with us live right outside our nation's capital at FedEx Field, where it looks like, Sherry, the rain has stopped for now.
I wish. It actually just picked back up, Andrew. The rain has kind of been downpour, then stop, then drizzle, then stop. So we're going to see if that plays a factor today. I heard you talking about Sam Howell. He's 3-0 in his young career. And what stands out really is his arm. That's what Bill's general manager told me. You don't think it's that strong until you see him throw, particularly for a guy who isn't that big. See if the weather impacts that. But on the Bills side, they do want to run the ball. So against the stout Washington defense, it's going to be a real chess match. The Washington defense actually ranks first, or tied for first in sacks, so they're also going to be stopping the run, but definitely getting after Josh Allen's one of their top priorities here today.
Which is, Steve, what they did last week. That Washington defense, a huge part of their comeback in the second half, getting after Russell Wilson, sacking him 7 times.
Yeah, Chase Young came back from that injury. I mean, that's a big deal, getting him back in there at a sack and a half. You know, you saw this defense. Sherry talked about all the money, a lot of their money's on the defensive front, the defensive line. But it's also an attitude going on in Washington. This week on the NFL Report broadcast and podcast, Andrew.
Right here on the NFL channel,
Right here on the NFL channel. We had Brian Robinson, the stud running back, who's got a combined 200 yards. If this would be the true measuring test for Washington after the first 2 games, he said, let me clear my throat. The Washington Commanders are the true measuring test for the Buffalo Bills. So they think they are as good as their record says. A true test today. And Sherry, I do think this defensive front is a huge part of it.
Yeah, Montez Sweat this week saying this team is really just scratching the surface, which we think what they've been able to do. That's a little scary, and it's the vibe here. It's a pleasant surprise for this Washington team. I've covered this team. This is now my 4th season. Guys, I have never felt the energy, the confidence that is coming from this team in the locker room. They're battling their boom boxes. Guys are like dapping each other up. There is such an energy. And talking to head coach Ron Rivera, he's saying that we're starting to see that matriculate on the field. Again, with the offense, there's a lot of trust building with Eric Bieniemy to Sam Howell to his receivers. So it's still early in the season, trying to go 3-0 for the first time since 2005, but they are starting to put these pieces together to this puzzle.
Yeah, and a whole bunch of alums there again today, as all the old guys, Brian Arakpo included. Even the caveman can come back to see his old team. Sherry Burris there live with the Commanders as they try to go to 3-0, as Sherry said, for the first time since 2005. The Dolphins are also trying to go 3-0. They did it last year. They get the Broncos today. One of 7 0-2 teams trying to avoid the dreaded 0-3. We're going to weave this stat through the entire show. You're going to hear this all day. You've probably heard it all week. Only 4 teams since 2000, or since 1990, have made the playoffs after opening 0-3. That is what is facing the Broncos today. What's facing the Dolphins, as we say hi to Cam Wolf there live in Miami, is the prospect of, I don't know, having fun again, throwing the deep ball again, and getting back once again to the offense maybe we saw in L.A. week number 1. Bill Belichick did his job, yet they still, Cam, found a way to win last week in Foxborough, which is a headline in and of itself.
Yeah, Andrew, the Dolphins just came out on the field a few minutes ago to a huge cheer from their home opening crowd. But they'll have to play today without Jalen Waddle, who has been ruled out in the concussion protocol. I'm told that he's progressing well. He's had no setbacks. He practiced non-contact practice on Friday, but just not enough to go today. And so keep an eye on River Craycraft and Braxton Berrios to pick up some of the slack for Waddle. Tyreek Hill said this week in the locker room he thinks that those 2 guys will shock people. So maybe that's something to watch for the deep fantasy leagues. But I cannot wait for what I think is the best cornerback wide receiver matchup we've had all season between Tyreek Hill and Pat Surtain. Surtain told me this week he expects to be matched up on Hill a lot today. And look, this Dolphins offense is very explosive, but the Broncos may have their match. Surtain has had some success against Hill in the past, but can they handle the motion that the Dolphins love to do? That's a key storyline.
They faced each other only once. Surtain did get credit for an interception in that game. Steve, Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Your thoughts? What are you seeing?
Well, what's interesting, and Cam, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is how Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos are basically trying to take Russell Wilson and make him Tua Tagovailoa. That is, get the ball out quickly, right? Throw the ball to certain targets, get it out at a certain time. That's what's going to be a big challenge for Russell Wilson today, because that Dolphins front with Christian Wilkins, who's a stud, the defensive tackle who really showed out last week, Cam, that pressure, and Sean Payton, you heard him talking about reducing the verbiage, maybe doing some things right there. How can they make Russ more like Tua to make this offense work?
Steve, that's a big jump, because what you said that note, it made me think that Tua leads the NFL in time for throw. Russell Wilson is second to last. And so they're completely opposite in how they had the flow of the offense. You mentioned it. One thing to watch today is keywords. They're going to give 2-word keywords for plays instead of those 10 to 15 word play words, hoping to increase that communication. But they have to protect their offensive line. They had 7 sacks this week. This is a Dolphins front that has Bradley Chubb that would love to get a sack versus his former team. Vic Fangio that would love to give Russ a long day against his former team, and so Russ has to get that ball out quickly to Jerry Jeudy for them to have any chance today.
I'm not. Go ahead.
No, Cam, we had Cam on the show this week too. You talked about the motion. You addressed it all. Miami's motion is not just eye candy. Cam explained what they do with Tyreek Hill to basically. His motion is basically like a sprinter taking a 200-meter curve.
It's like a CFL motion.
Toward the line of scrimmage, and how that's hard to defend.
Not a CFL, because they don't go forward.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes he does.
Okay.
He's turning that corner around the tackle, but he's not going forward. He's just kind of.
It's a bow. It's a bow.
Right on the line.
You know what it is? It's like when you're at a red light. Right, and you know, because you look to your left, your right, and you see that it's yellow over there, that you're about to get the green, and so you're inching forward a little bit, even though it's still red.
Even though it's still red. Hey, real quick, though, the Broncos aren't going to have Justin Simmons back there in the middle. We know that's where the Dolphins like to go deep. How much? You talked about the matchup with Surtain, but they've got to have over-the-top help, and not having Simmons seems like that's something that could handicap the Broncos.
Yeah, Steve, a lot of pressure on communication. And Kareem Jackson, who's their veteran safety, usually opposite Justin Simmons, will have a big responsibility in trying to slow down the communication. You mentioned the motion. Part of it is to get Tyreek and some of those guys open. A lot of the reason is also to create chaos. And this Broncos team has really struggled with communication and penalties early in the season. And so that's something that I'm going to watch. How does the defense react when Tyreek Hill has motion? Surtain told me they have a good plan. They feel like they've watched a lot of tape, but it's different seeing it in person than it is watching it on film.
The Dolphins offensively have 100 yards more. 100 yards more than the next best team when it comes to total offense. Thank you, Cam Wolford, live
and get him a
in
towel.
Miami.
He's
Get him a
through
towel.
his suit right now.
He's sweating. He's sweating. But you know what? Don't sweat fantasy. Breece Hall, are you playing him? Maybe. Coming up, Marcus Grant is here to give you a somewhat surprising must start at running back. And by the way, sign up for NFL Plus, plus.nfl.com. Go there, do it now. You have 2 minutes. It's NFL Game Day preview, everybody. If you're watching us on YouTube, maybe you have X open as well. Here's what we like to call in the trade a social waterfall. It's just dripping down your screen. There's Kareem Hunt wearing a Nick Chubb jersey. Doesn't that warm your heart as he shows up for work at First Energy Stadium? The Packers have a lot of injuries today. Aaron Jones is out. Christian Watson is out, which means maybe you have some fantasy questions. Lucky for you, Marcus Grant is here to answer those fantasy questions, and he has must-starts for Week 3. Marcus, are you ready?
Let's go.
All right, let's do it. The must-start quarterback is not playing today. He's playing tomorrow.
Playing tomorrow night in Cincinnati. It's not Joe Burrow. It's Matthew Stafford instead. Look, we've all been hyped on Puka Nacua. Tutu Atwell's having a good start to the season, but none of that happens without the guy delivering the football. And look, it's not just Matthew Stafford. I think a lot of it is owed to an offensive line that's healthy and intact. And look, they have the same guys playing together multiple weeks in a row. That's something they didn't say last year. So, look, I think we forgot what happened after last year. The Rams were bad. I think we forgot that 2 years ago, Matt Stafford was a top 5 fantasy quarterback. I've been impressed with what I've seen from the Rams offense. I think they keep it going this week.
All right, and we don't know if it's going to be Joe Burrow or not. Tune in Monday night, but the A.J. McCarron signing on Saturday was interesting. Let's put it that way. Last week, Michael Florio standing right here in your spot, he gave the must-start James Cook against the Raiders thing at running back, and our minds were all collectively blown. You kind of are doing something
We're
similar.
kind of doing the same thing. We're saying to start Najee Harris against the Raiders this week. We had concerns about Najee coming into the season, and they have sort of played out that way. Jalen Warren is a real thing in that Pittsburgh Steelers offense the first couple of weeks. But also in Najee's defense, their first 2 games were against the 49ers and the Browns, 2 of the tougher run defenses he's going to face all year. He's going to get a bit of a break against the Raiders. The other part of this, Andrew, is that fantasy folks are starting to give up on Najee Harris, and that's when a player actually goes off.
So you're doing that.
Yeah, we're doing that thing too. But also Raiders defense.
And also Raiders defense.
Also Raiders
Which
defense.
makes all the sense in the world. Your must-start wide receiver today is also in the AFC North.
It is. Zay Flowers. And Zay Flowers has really established himself as the #1 guy for Lamar Jackson in that passing offense. We weren't sure how it was going to work with Odell there, Rashad Bateman back, but Zay Flowers has been the man. He's the guy they're going to on 3rd and 4th downs when they have to get completions. So they already trust Zay Flowers. He looks great. He looks like he's going to be a big part of this offense all year long. And Todd Monken has this passing game going the way we hoped they would. The Colts, sort of middle of the road defensively. I think Zay Flowers has another big week.
All right, and I'm happy because I have Zay Flowers on my team about which nobody cares. The Jaguars last week scored only 9 points. Is that the reason you're saying avoid Trevor Lawrence today?
A little bit of that, but more about I think the Texans are more likely to give up yards on the ground than they are through the air. I think this is a big game for Travis Etienne in the Jaguars and not so much for Trevor Lawrence. I don't know that they're going to need him to do a whole lot. I think they can kind of run the ball effectively. I think Lawrence will do just enough. Chances are if you drafted Trevor Lawrence, you probably drafted a second quarterback, and depending on who that is, the matchup may be a little bit better. D'Amico Ryans is going to get this defense really cranked up. It's not quite there yet, but I think they're better stopping the pass than they are stopping the run.
Okay, so Trevor Lawrence is your quarterback to avoid this week. Don't avoid Marcus Grant. He's sticking around on the show for the rest of the hour, by the way. But the Fantasy Show every Monday and Wednesday right here on the NFL channel. Coming up next on NFL Game Day Preview, we are going to Minnesota. Justin Herbert's putting up big numbers. The Chargers are not winning. Oh, by the way, you could say the exact same thing for Kirk Cousins. What gives in Minneapolis? We are there next in 2 minutes.
We came here to do a job. Yes, Lord. We got to show everybody who we really are. This is the jungle. We going to show them who the Lions are. Jungle.
Gonna be great. Let's go.
Lions, hallelujah.
That's fun to watch, boy. Hey, I'm looking at the big screen the whole time. I ain't blocking nobody.
We're on top of the world, Craig. The best business at this. We the best in the business.
It was electric. I'm sorry for cussing, but it was. And we're signing off, man. Go Bills, baby.
It's an electric morning in Minneapolis right there. Look at Kirk Cousins coming out of the tunnel. It's the 0-2 Vikings, the 0-2 Chargers. If you're wondering, I know you are, this is the fourth time in NFL history that two teams that made the playoffs the year before meet week 3 where they're both 0-2. It actually happened last year.
That's a stat.
There you go. Thanks to the NFL Research Department, Steve. Justin working the stage today. Last year between the Raiders and the Titans. What do you know? What do you know, Tom Pelissero? Let's go live to Minneapolis.
Andrew, it's only week 3, but this has the feel of an elimination game as the 0-2 Vikings host the 0-2 Chargers here today. LA, of course, has struggled on defense, and they are shaking some things up. Cornerback J.C. Jackson, one of the high-priced free agent additions a year ago, is a healthy scratch for this game. In the injury news, Joey Bosa, their star defensive end for the Chargers, is officially active. I am told that he's going to play a little bit more than he did last week as he works his way back from a hamstring injury. You'll see Bosa more on first and second downs here. So good news for the Vikings. Left tackle Christian Darrisaw is back. I am told he will start. Center Garrett Bradbury, however, is inactive for this game. Quarterback Kirk Cousins told me the Chargers are a desperate team, just like we are. Somebody's coming out of here 0-3. Somebody, you would hope, going to get their season on track. Andrew?
And thank you, Tom. We're going to hammer people over the head again with this stat. If you go 0-3 since 1990, you have no shot of making the playoffs. You have a 2.5% shot, regardless of whether it's 12 teams or 14 teams, of making the playoffs. So somebody has to win. What I think they nailed it this week on Good Morning Football was described, Steve, as the Spider-Man meme of games, right? 2 0-2 teams that can't really stop anybody, that have quarterbacks putting up big numbers, but are not winning.
Well, it seems like the Vikings' issues are more fixable. Theirs are just giveaways, right? They fumble the ball 6 times. They've got 7 giveaways. With the Chargers, they keep on giving up the explosive play, and they're playing Justin Jefferson today. The Chargers have lost 2 games the same way, and that is just late, not protecting the ball deep. So J.C. Jackson being out, that's a change they've made, Marcus, but they've also got to give help over the top to Jefferson because that's something Brandon Staley has mixed up sometimes, trying to go man a little too much. If he gets cute today, the Vikings can be the team that gets their first dub.
Well, and I think a lot of ways, Andrew mentioned the Spider-Man meme. I mean, these teams can both be explosive, can both be big offensively. Justin Herbert, the big arm guy, I mean, we know what he can do with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, and still waiting for Quentin Johnson to kind of get going. But this is the potential of a big play offense, even without Austin Eckler there. This has the makings of a track meet potentially if these teams kind of get going up and down the field today.
I don't know what the total is for this game, but you have 2 quarterbacks that light it up, 2 quarterbacks that light it up in the fourth quarter here. You have 2 teams that can score. The Chargers, you know how many yards the Chargers have given up? He doesn't know. I'm just going to ask.
I'm guessing in the 800 yards.
877 yards. Ooh. And the last couple of years, Brandon Staley's defense, as you said, don't give up the explosives. No team has given up more.
And Khalil Mack's got to get going. I mean, Joey Bosa's come in. He's got some sacks. The rookie Tuli Tuipulotu has come in and made plays. But Khalil Mack, who they're paying big money, he's got to get pressure on Kirk Cousins.
I'll say this. We know the stat about going 0-3. I would say if you are the Vikings, you might be in a better spot just because I don't know that anybody in that division is going to pull away. I know the Chiefs have not been, lights out so far, but they're still the Chiefs, and we think they're going to get hot at some point.
Last 8 games without Austin Eckler, but with Justin Herbert, the Chargers are 2-6, and nobody runs it as little as the Vikings. They went and traded for Cam Akers this week. However, Cam is inactive today. He got there midweek. If you're scoring at home, let's do Who Scores, however. Who Scores now, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Let's put the Chargers or the Vikings on the screen, or the Bears and the Chiefs on the screen, where you could find a same-game parlay courtesy of DraftKings. You get big days from Mahomes and Kelsey, 50 more receiving yards from DJ Moore. That gives you the odds here on the screen. You see it as to who gets in the end zone in this game. All right, who scores here? Steve Wyche in this game. Bears Chiefs.
Going out on a limb, Justin Fields. It's not crazy. He scores just about every game, whether it's a run or a pass. So I think Justin Fields, who says he's got to play with more instinct, got to play more instinctual, he's going to get in the end zone again today. Maybe he gets in even twice. Not saying they're going to
Okay,
win.
so he gets in the end zone. If Luke gets, he isn't in his head. Is that what I got this week? There's too much coaching, and he's got to be more himself?
Well, he's got more himself, and he's just got to, let the ball rip when they got him. And today he may have to let it rip an awful lot of times because the Chiefs get out to a big lead. He's going to be throwing a lot more than they want him to.
Exactly. The Bears have lost 12 consecutive games. All right, they have not won since a week before Halloween last year. All right, Seahawks, Panthers, Marcus Grant, who scores there?
Kenneth Walker the third, I guess, if we're being.
He had two last week, so this is the third.
This is the third, exactly. You know what? I know that the Seahawks sort of want to change up their offense and throw the football a little bit more, but this feels like a classic Pete Carroll sort of game where we grind it out against a Panther run defense that has not been very good so far this season. I think we see a lot of Kenneth Walker, and especially when they get down near the goal line, just let him bang in. So it might be two more for Kenneth Walker.
All right,
Who knows this
might
week?
be a couple more for Kenneth Walker. That is Who Scores, oh, by the way, and that is presented to you by DraftKings. Thank you, guys. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NFL, and during Week 3, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app and use the code GAME when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. You're watching NFL Game Day Preview on the NFL channel. Coming up next, can Garrett Wilson and the Jets take flight in the rain at MetLife Stadium? You can follow that game after this show ends. Oh, by the way, by staying tuned for Game Center. It's highlights, it's stats, it's everything. It's right here on the NFL channel. You're watching NFL Game Day Preview, everybody. Do you yet have NFL Plus? And if the answer is no, I'll ask why Do you know that you can watch your local games on NFL Plus today? Like, go to the kids' soccer game. You can take the NFL Plus with you and watch the live local games. You can watch the primetime games tonight, like the game in Vegas or the game tomorrow night in Cincinnati. You can watch it all on NFL Plus, and you get NFL Network. Plus.nfl.com. Why are you waiting? Like, restrictions apply. They always do. It's an app, you know, and like, they're blackouts and things. But go get it. Plus.nfl.com. You can also see Drake London doing something he's probably not going to do during the game, and that is get a ball thrown to him in the red zone.
Sticky hands. Look at that.
I'm
Just
kidding.
Sticky.
And I say this not because I'm a bitter fantasy player. I say this out of respect. And I'll say this right now. If Arthur Smith, Marcus Grant, Steve Weich, by the way, if Arthur Smith, okay, were calling plays for the Jets, they'd win because they'd be dedicated to the run.
Yeah.
Nobody runs it more than the Falcons, and this is the sneaky best game of the day today, guys. The Falcons in Detroit against the Lions.
Yeah, 2 dome teams. And we know what the Falcons are going to do. They've shown us their identity. Like you said, Andrew, they're going to take it and they're going to pound it. The Lions have actually done a pretty decent job stopping the run this far, but they have not faced an offense like this. And we did see Atlanta last week open things up a little bit more in the passing game with Kyle Pitts, with Drake London. But there's Tyler Algier, right? He's the hammer. But Bijan Robinson, the Bijan freeze, Marcus, he is the guy to watch today as they face another first-round running back, Jahmyr Gibbs. But look at Bijan right here, just going through the muck and continuing to keep his feet.
I mean, he had a run against the Packers where he just broke down a couple of defenders. That was incredible to watch. The other thing I'm watching here, and maybe it's a little bit fantasy, but it's also football, is are they going to get Kyle Pitts finally involved? I mean, this is a guy that they spent, what, a top 5 pick on, who has not been a part of the offense. And I know Arthur Smith has sort of been cute and saying we're not playing fantasy football, but this is just about taking a guy who's a talented playmaker and getting him involved in your offense. We finally saw Drake London get some opportunities last week. I know they have Bijan. I know how good he is, but you also have a guy who is a game changer out there. He's got tight end next to his name. He's really kind of a wide receiver.
He is, and you see what Atlanta's done too. They're using Mac Hollins a lot more too, another big, tall wide receiver. But this goes back to the Kyle Pitts argument. They've got to find a way to get him going a little bit more on the offense, to at least put something on film early this season to make other teams start scheming for him. Because right now, you're not seeing a whole lot of coverage dedicated to Kyle Pitts because he's an unused person.
This is Desmond Ritter's first road start. He finally threw a pick last week. He also probably should have thrown 3. There were 2 that the Packers did him a favor, and he got out of there with only 1. And when it comes to the injuries, and this is, you mentioned David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Montgomery is inactive today with a thigh, so Jahmyr Gibbs for the Lions is probably going to get a few more touches. So from a fantasy perspective, breathe easy. This could be your Jahmyr Gibbs breakout game. That game is in Detroit. We also have a game about to kick. We are, check the clock, 15 minutes away from kickoff now as we go on the field and show you a sunshiny Miami. If you're on the East Coast, you're probably dealing with that tropical storm. Here in Miami, the sun is shining, and this has to be, like, I'm not calling this a Denver victory here. Miami is clearly the better team here, Marcus. But this is, in my eyes, a pivotal game here today, Steve. For the Broncos and for Russell Wilson.
So you want me to keep it straight?
It's not Jarrett Stidham walking in the door next week, but show me something.
Well, I mean, look, we've heard Sean Payton say they've got to do things to simplify the verbiage so Russell Wilson can get in and out of the huddle and play. We heard Cam Wolf say they're going to use 2 code words maybe instead of a 15-play call. But this Dolphins defensive front, led by defensive tackle Christian Wilkins, is going to make it tough to run the ball. So there will be a lot on Russell Wilson to deliver today.
Yeah, and look, I will say this. Russ has, at least the first half of games, has looked pretty good. The second half has been a little bit of a shaky situation for him.
Sam Howell has looked really good, especially in the fourth quarter. I'll say it again. He's the only quarterback in the NFL with 2 fourth-quarter comebacks today. And Marcus, I'm going to make it a statement later, but I'll tease the statement. I kind of like the Commanders today.
I don't think that's crazy, and I want to see it again. I mean, look, Sam Howell's been very good. This one, at home against a good Bills team, this might be the biggest test he has so far this year, but he looks poised back there. Eric Bieniemy is dialing up the plays effectively. This Commanders offense, I think, we didn't know. They were sort of a black box, I think, coming into the season, but Sam Howell has shown me some things the first 2 weeks.
He can rip it, and they survived last week when there was a no call on a 2-point conversion. But hey, they'll take it in the end zone with no time left. Here's what I would like to see today, guys. I would like to see Derek Carr play a good game. I would like to see this offense, and I know they've had all kinds of injuries at running back, collectively play a good game. To Derek's credit, he has made throws in the fourth quarter, both in weeks 1 and 2 when they needed it most, and it mattered. Hello, Rashid Shaheed, wearing number 22. But this is the best defense Derek Carr has ever had. He has never had a good defense with the Raiders. Now he does. Imagine what the Saints could be if Derek Carr played like that playoff quarterback that we have seen in seasons past when he was wearing silver and black and not silver and gold. They have something here, and to me, against a team that doesn't have Jair Alexander, that is banged up, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and he's going to get some short fields potentially. Derek Carr, step it up today. As we go live at the field, and we are inside of 9 minutes remaining now until kickoff on week number 3. Time to give you some quick picks. We're going to open with a game that could also have rain today. That game is in Baltimore. It's the Colts and the Ravens, and not surprisingly, with no Anthony Richardson and with Gardner Minshew starting at quarterback, Steve, we're all taking the Colts.
Yeah, I think that was a slip. I'm taking the Ravens. They're down 8 starters.
My fault.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, you know,
okay.
They're down 8 starters, and we're still taking them because of that guy, Lamar Jackson. I think he's going to run the ball a lot more because of the conditions on the natural turf there that they have at M&T's Bank Stadium. But I think we're going to see Lamar Jackson really put on a show.
Let's go Texans-Jaguars here. Marcus, you did not want to play Trevor Lawrence, but you do like the Jaguars.
I do like the Jaguars. I think it's going to be sort of a holistic approach offensively for the Jaguars, and I think defensively they can cause some havoc. I'll say this. I like what I've seen from C.J. Stroud the first couple weeks of the season, but they just have not had a great all-around offensive game plan. They've been playing from behind, and I think the Jaguars do just enough. I don't think it's going to be pretty. I think it'll be just enough, though, to win.
Okay, we all like the Jaguars. We are in agreement. We are not necessarily in agreement, however, on the game that is about to kick off in Cleveland between the Browns and the Titans. Steve, you like Tennessee.
I like Tennessee. I mean, the way their offense got rolling in the second half, I guaranteed against the Chargers last week. Ryan Tannehill, that was a confidence-building game. But I just think their defense right here. I mean, they shut down the run. That's what Cleveland has to do to get their offense going. They're going to put some pressure on Deshaun Watson, and I just think Tennessee overall is going to put on a better effort against Cleveland.
Okay, Marcus, you like the Browns. I like the Browns here as well. Green Hunt showed up.
You like the Browns?
I do. I'm liking them, however, I say that in picking a football game, which, by the way, can we go back to college football briefly? When you pick one team over the other, it is not a sign of disrespect.
No.
You're just picking a football game. Now, sometimes you could say it in a disrespectful way, but generally speaking, you are just picking a game, okay? So let's get another game to pick.
This would have to do with a team in Boulder or anything, right?
No, I'm just saying in general, or any other team. A team, you know, like in South Bend yesterday that lost to a team from Columbus. Cowboys and Cardinals, a team going to Arizona, and I think we all agree we'll stomp the Cardinals. Can we put it that way? Is that disrespect?
I think that's fair.
Okay.
I mean, I'll say this. The Cardinals have put up a fight the
Yes,
first
they
couple
have.
of weeks.
They've been much more
They have
competitive.
not been doormats the way I think people expected them to.
Agreed.
I mean, you know,
What a compliment. They have not been doormats.
They gave the Giants all they wanted for the first half, you know, a couple weeks ago. So, they're still not as good as the Cowboys. The Cowboys are arguably one of the 2 best teams in the NFC. They will get the win. But, shout out to the Cardinals for, for playing hard.
It's going to be a lot tougher than people.
Absolutely. I agree. Shout out to them for playing hard. All right, let's move on to the game at MetLife Stadium, which is about to kick off here as well. No. I do. And I told you I'm a big Josh Dobbs fan, certainly as well. Let's get to MetLife.
I've decided to resign as the head coach of the New York Jets.
Robert giving me an opportunity to come here. I couldn't have asked for anything more.
It was the hardest hit I've ever heard.
Tom Brady's in the game. He is. You're right.
You know, I hate the Jets. He knows we hate the Patriots. I don't like Tom Brady.
Say no to stop.
You hate
And the Jets silenced Gillette Stadium. Sanchez gets hit. The ball is loose.
It was the backside, the ball out.
Brady fires down the middle. Touchdown! Brady throws it for Edelman.
Mac Jones' era starts today, and I'm excited.
Do you feel like you let the defense down?
No.
Happened in the past where you got to focus on the moment. The past.
All right, the moment here is this. A, it's raining. B, the Patriots have beaten the Jets 14 consecutive games. As pointed out this morning by Mike Garafolo on Game Day morning, last time the Jets beat the Patriots, Robert Saleh was a linebacker coach in Jacksonville, and Sauce Gardner was a freshman.
Well, I mean, look, it's funny because I was looking at the media markets today, and the Patriots media is all like, if Belichick falls to 0-3, is this the beginning of him getting pushed out of Foxborough? And then if the Jets fall to 0-3, is this the end of Zach Wilson?
1-2. Jets won week 1.
I'm sorry, you're right. If they fall to 1-2, Zach Wilson going to be their guy. Thank you for that correction on that. This, to me, is more of what Bill Belichick can do to Zach Wilson. If Zach Wilson, we saw he had the giveaways last week. I know some people said he had some good moments. He still did not play well overall. Is it ever going to register? And if it does not, what are the Jets going to do? Are they going to continue to go through this every week, Marcus, and say, well, he's going to keep us there. Our defense has to play great. Because if this keeps going by week 8, week 9, then all of a sudden you're going to start to have a little bit more turmoil. So I think the Jets have got to play well today, and this is an opportunity for them.
It is, but I think part of that answer is Breece Hall and just getting that running game going. And Andrew made the comment, if Arthur Smith were calling plays, they would be running the football a whole lot more. And I know Breece was unhappy. I think he had a tweet where he put 4 footballs to signify the 4 touches he had and then went back and deleted it. But also part of this is the Jets cannot be successful, at least not right now, if Zach Wilson is throwing the ball 25, 30 times a game. This is, fortunately, I think it's not a situation where it was like with the Cowboys that can run out and hide from them offensively, score a lot of points. They can stay in this game. If they get Breece Hall and to some extent Dalvin Cook involved, run the football, I think this takes some of the pressure off of Zach Wilson.
But you and I are of like mind here. If the Patriots go in there and lose to Zach Wilson.
Oh, turmoil.
Yeah. I would lock the doors this week in Foxborough because
Bill Belichick already locked the door.
It will get ugly. This week. All right, let's make a Sunday statement. The league made a Sunday statement as we were driving into work this morning. The Super Bowl halftime show, the Apple Music Super Bowl 58 halftime show is announced. It's Usher.
Well, it started 7 o'clock on the dot.
Hey. It's Usher. Everybody, I see what you did there. I see what you did there, Marcus.
Thank you.
That was good. So that was the Sunday statement. We're all excited to go to Allegiant Stadium to see Usher coming up for Super Bowl 58. Your Sunday statement today, Steve, for Week 3
It will be that Chicago Bears quarterback Justin Fields has the best game he's had this season. Some people may say that's not saying much. He did have a pretty good game in Week 1.
Look at
him and Luke Getsy showing all the love. After what happened this week, he has got to come out and play well, whether it's him playing through his coaching, playing by instinct. I think he is going to have his best game thus far.
Okay, I think so as well. I still think they lose their 13th game in a row and 16th out of 17, believe that or not. Marcus.
I said earlier that Najee Harris was a running back you wanted to start, and I will tell you because
Are you taking it back?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm gonna up the ante. I think he goes for $125 on the ground against the Raiders. What was it? He hasn't run for 100 yards since week 17
since
of last
December
season?
of last year. So it's more recent than you think.
It is more recent, although that was the only 100-yard game he had all season last year. I think he does it again this week for the Steelers against a shaky Raider defense.
My Sunday statement is this. It's my hometown team. I didn't grow up necessarily a fan of the team, and yes, I was there 24 hours ago. I'm going to say the Washington Commanders are going to beat the Bills today.
All right.
And the Commanders are going to be 3-0 for the first time since they weren't called the Commanders in 2005 when Mark Brunell was their starting quarterback. So I'm taking the Commanders today.
That city will lose its mind.
Josh Allen hasn't had back-to-back games without a turnover in a couple of years. It's not going to happen today either. This has been NFL Game Day Preview. For Cynthia Freeland, for Marcus Grant, for Steve Weich, my name is Andrew Siciliano. Game Center is next. Enjoy Week 3, friends. We'll see you next week.
All right.
Enjoy it.
Hey everybody, welcome to NFL Game Center presented by FanDuel. I'm Patrick Claybon. We got an incredible slate of games today, and Game Center's got you covered with highlights and social reactions for all of them. Get ready for a fun day of football. Enjoy the show.
Bring it in tight. We came here to do a job. Gotta show everybody who we really are.
We know who you are. Yeah. We know what you're about. So.
Yeah. Gonna say this, the jungle. We gonna show them who the real Lions are. We're the world, Craig. The best Lions.
Y'all gonna have some to laugh at when he threw the pick. 22 me up.
Let me get one right here. Let me get a pick right here.
Pick intercepted. Picked off by the Bucks at the 30.
I know, that's all mine.
Good play.
Oh yeah, baby. Smell good. Is it honey today?
Make sure if you're feeling a little tired, just go off the sideline there.
Well, you were true.
Take care of you.
Zach Wilson, play action, drops the throw. There's one over the middle, and it's caught. Breaking free, Garrett Wilson. That's a Jet touchdown.
I can barely see. That was the smallest window I've ever seen. It was tight, man.
It was tight. It was amazing. It was electric. I'm sorry for cussing, but it was amazing. And we're signing off, man.
Houston last week. 1st and 10, they'll run it, and hard off the edge for Zach Moss, and a blast out to midfield. And for the first time all season, the Ravens have given up a first down in the first quarter.
Well, and watch Ajabu on the backside get locked inside, doesn't set the edge. That's a hallmark of this defense.